Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking about the HTTP protocol. I'm going to show you guys how it works. This video is a part of a series where I'm going over the essential concepts and technologies you should understand if you're interested in the web development space. Thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to subscribe and to hit the bell icon so you can get notified when I upload new videos on this series. HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol, and it has been the heart of the web since 1990. Before we dive deeper into HTTP, it's important that you understand first what a protocol is. In essence, a protocol is a set of rules and standards two entities should follow so that they can understand each other and communicate effectively. Let's consider a common example. Two people are meeting for the very first time and they're going to start a conversation. Typically, the first person will follow several common steps. They'll say hello, then they'll say their name, and then they'll extend out their hand for a handshake. The other person will do something very similar. They'll also say hello, they'll say their name as well, and then they'll shake the first person's hand. This sets up the whole initial interaction, and then they start their conversation. HTTP is just like this. The difference is that instead of setting up the interaction between two people, it sets up the rules and standards two machines, a client and a server, should follow so that they can communicate and understand each other. This communication between clients and servers is necessary under the context of the internet. The client, which is often your browser, will establish a TCP connection with the server to then send HTTP requests to that server asking for the data it needs to construct a page, and the server will answer back with responses containing the necessary data. Alright guys, so before we go into the core concepts of HTTP, I want to first show you an example so that you can see it in action. The first thing we're going to do here is open up the Chrome Developer Tools. So to do that on a Mac, I'm going to hit Command-Option-I. As you can see there, on the right hand side, we now have the Chrome Developer Tools open, and we have to make sure that the Network tab is selected so that we can see all the requests that are happening behind the scenes. Alright, so we're going to go over to the address bar. I'm going to write out the domain name of a website I created for this video. It's called example.hocian.com, and then I'll hit enter. As you can see here on the left hand side, we have the content of the home page of this website, and then on the right hand side over here we have a list of HTTP requests the browser made to my server in order to receive the files and data it needed to produce the result you see on the left. In order to see exactly how an HTTP request and response looks like, we're going to be using a program known as curl so that we can act as if we were a browser and make this request. As you can see here on my screen, we have a terminal window, and what I'm going to do is type out curl and then the domain name of the website I'm looking for, which is going to be the same one we saw earlier. Example.hocian.com, and then I'm going to add the verbose option so that we can really see everything that's happening when we execute this, which will make that request. So as you can see here, after we executed the curl command, the computer connected to example.hocian.com, which is located at this IP address. After the connection was established, it made an HTTP request, which looks like this. There's a couple of things you should remember about HTTP requests. The first is the HTTP method. This request is using a GET method, but there are actually 4 of them: GET, POST, PUT, and DELETE. A GET method is used to retrieve data from the server. A POST request is used to send data to the server and create something. A PUT request is most often used to update data on the server, and a DELETE request, just as it sounds, removes data. The next thing to remember is the Uniform Resource Identifier, or URI. It specifies the specific thing you are looking for on the server. In this case, the URI we have is a slash, and that means we're retrieving the home page of this website, example.hocian.com. If you want to get a different resource, like a different page on this site, you would change the slash to something else, like /about. The third thing we have here is the HTTP version, and there's actually 3 of them: HTTP 1.0, 1.1, and 2.0. In this case, we're using 1.1. After the first line, you have a list of headers which send additional data to the server, and the one to remember here is the host header, which indicates the domain of the website we're sending this request to. Finally, HTTP requests can also have message bodies, which are used to send data to the server, but they only apply to post and put requests, so that's why you're not seeing a message body here, as this is a GET request. Let's move on to the response. The response is similar to the request, but there are two important things to remember here. The first is that a response has a status code. There's a status code you've probably seen a lot, 404. You'll often get 404 if you're trying to access a page that doesn't exist. But there is a status code that indicates success when a web page does exist, and that's 200. 301 is used for permanent redirection, and 500 means something went terribly wrong on the server. The second important thing you should remember about HTTP responses is the body. The body will contain the data you were asking the server for in the request. If we take a look at the response we received earlier, one of the first things we can see here is that the status code the server sent back is 200, which means we were successful and the server found the page we were looking for in the request. Additionally, we also have a list of headers like in the request, and it's important to note here the content type header. This header indicates the type of data the server is sending back to us. We can see here that it's HTML data. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it's the foundation on top of which web pages are built. Where is this HTML then? Well, as I explained earlier, the message body of the response contains the primary data the server is sending back to us. We actually have the message body down here. So as you can see here, all of this is HTML. The browser can understand all of this code and it uses it to construct the page. You'll remember that earlier we accessed this page, and in the network tab, we have the list of HTTP requests the browser made to the server. I'm gonna click on this first request we have here, and you'll realize this is the same request we made with curl. It uses a GET method. The server responded back with a 200 OK status code, and we're asking for the home page of the site. If we move over to the response tab, we'll then be able to see the message body the server sent back. Let's move over to the response tab, and as you can see here, we have the exact same HTML data we got back when we were using curl on the terminal. The browser reads through all of this HTML and it constructs the web page on the left. If I move over to the Elements tab, you can also see the HTML, and now if I hover over any of these different elements, it'll highlight them on the left-hand side, which means that whatever I'm hovering over was responsible for creating what you see on the left. I'm going to be making another video on HTML as a part of this series to dive deeper into how it works. Alright guys, I know that was a lot of information, but if you're able to follow along, you should have a pretty good understanding as to how HTTP works, which is really important if you want to become a web developer. Before I leave you guys, I want to point out some final important things about HTTP. The first is that HTTP is stateless. What that means is that whenever a client sends a request to a server and the server answers back with a response, and then the client sends another request in the future, the server doesn't remember that they had talked before or anything about the previous communication. The second important thing to remember is that HTTP is media independent. What that means is that HTTP can be used to send any type of data back and forth as long as the client and server can both understand it. The final important thing to know is that modern websites nowadays are expected to use HTTPS instead of HTTP. HTTPS adds encryption to HTTP so that the data that clients and servers send to each other is kept secret, and if a third party intercepts that communication, they can't understand it. This is really important, especially if your website has sensitive data. Alright guys, so that's it. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video and you were able to learn something. Remember to leave a comment so that I can know what your thoughts are and answer any of your questions. See you guys.